Hey Queens, welcome to the Sister Circle podcast, a podcast dedicated to providing candid conversations, information, and resources regarding women's health, mental health, motherhood, and wellness. And I am your homegirl and host, Untitled D. So go ahead and get comfortable, Queen. Let's dig in. Hey y'all. So in today's episode, I interview LaToya D, aka The Analog Girl. She's a mental health advocate and podcast host of the Analog Girl podcast. I am really excited to share this episode as this queen is someone who I feel confidently owns and shares her story in dealing with anxiety, specifically chronic depersonalization. I don't want to give too much away, but know that this is an episode that you don't want to miss. Let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so listen, let's jump into it. I'm so excited to have you as a guest on the Sister Circle podcast. I had done a random search on the Clubhouse. We know that the Clubhouse is like this big to-do these days. And what compelled me to really reach out to you was after finding you on the Clubhouse. I went to your podcast and I checked out your Instagram page. And I think that one of the things that I found really incredible about you is your ownership of your story and then the fabulous way in which you share your story, particularly about anxiety. So that being said, I am hella excited to have LaToya, aka the Analog Girl, on the podcast.
Yes.
So LaToya, tell us who you are and really what led you towards your journey to wellness, Queen.
Okay, so tell us who you are. That question always, or that statement always makes me anxious. Well, I guess I'm a Bronx girl. I'm 41 years old. I'm a mother. My son is 25 years old. He's actually right over here sleeping, and he's probably shifting and moving because I'm talking too much. But I project manager by day, Sophista Ratchet by night.
I love it.
You will see that on my Instagram. I don't really talk about mental health and anxiety heavy on my Instagram. I save that for the podcast. But I became very much passionate about mental health when my own mental health started to struggle back in 2018. And I had a nervous breakdown and struggled with depersonalization, which is a symptom of anxiety. So that is when all shit hit the fan, and I was in talks to have a podcast developed on a network, a very popular network, and talking with the owner of the network. And then the nervous breakdown happened, and I went for the pilot and it was just whack. So it didn't work out with them, but I still wanted to move on with doing the podcast. And even being that I was in that space of the nervous breakdown and trying to figure out healing, and I was really trying to get back to being myself again, or being a better person than I was prior to this. I was like, you know what, let me just do what I'm doing now. Let me just try to talk about my healing. So if you go back to my very first episode, it was raw, no music, no nothing. I think I even was breaking down crying. It was very, very raw, and you can see the difference between that and now. And but all of those emotions and what I talked about in that very first episode was very real and something that was happening at that very moment. And I felt like I wanted to share that because I knew that there were other people out there that were struggling and didn't really know what they were going through. So that is how Analog Girl came about. And I've continued on to slowly build a community. I haven't really put my whole heart into it just yet. And I can only imagine what would happen once I really put my whole heart into building the analog community. So that's me.
I think that was great. So the Analog Girl, what exactly does the Analog Girl mean?
Analog came about because, I don't know if you ever heard of the term from Erykah Badu, analog girl living in a digital world.
Yes.
And I always related to that because I am totally an analog girl. Like I I was born in 79, so it's like the cusp of 80. Um, I grew up analog, but then going into college, well, even in high school, it was when computers started to come into effect. In college, as I got my first email and all of that, and then AOL and AIM and all. So, we were just learning about the digital world. So I've always had one foot in the analog world and one foot in the digital world. And once things started to happen with digital and the internet and social media, things just got so fast, and everything moved so fast. And when I think back to who I was in the analog ages, the tapes and the records and radio stations, and listening to 98.7 and Hot 97, and that being the place to go get your new music, not your phone where you could just pull it up whenever and wherever. Or watching videos on Channel 5 at nighttime was when I remember Michael Jackson broke. Do you remember the time? That was the first time we seen that video. Was on Channel 5, I think, like after Martin or something like that. And so those were like the analog times for me. Everything was just, and it was kind of slow paced and easy going and carefree, and my confidence was so much more than what it was in my adult life. So I resonated with that. And that's when I was just like, well, I'm gonna just call myself the analog girl. That's where I'm gonna go back to my foundation and who I was at that time and get that piece again.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I think that in the times of the digital world, I really think that it has complicated, and it has really like aggravated a sense of angst just across the board. Like you talked about, like how your confidence used to be like through the roof back in the analog days, right? And it's like now, you got to be real mindful of the things that you even like are scrolling on your social media, because it can instantly like put a damper on your mood.
Oh, absolutely. I don't follow many celebrities because of that. Because no hate on what they're doing and how they got there. It's great. But like, even for instance, like today, I didn't feel anything, but I was just like, ugh. And Swiss Beats posted him on this plane, and the plane was amazing with like beds and chairs. And he was like, not bragging. And he was like, it's not bragging because I came from the hood, but this is for inspiration. And it is inspirational. But like sometimes, when you're going through it and you're in this moment where I gotta pay bills, I gotta pay taxes, I don't want to keep seeing y'all rich motherfuckers doing all this all the time. Like I just don't.
I feel you, sis. Yeah.
Like I'm working hard to make the money that I'm making, doing and a great job, but it's just like, oh please. So sometimes I cannot follow celebrities and see their lifestyle, not for hate, to protect, what I'm saying? So that to protect myself from becoming envious, becoming jealous, or feeling like I missed the boat, or coveting something that does not belong to me.
So one of the things that you mentioned when you were telling us a little bit about yourself is you talked about depersonalization.
Yeah.
I before I talked to you, I had never heard of depersonalization. Can you talk to me a little bit about like what is that, and how did it actually show up in your life?
Sure. So depersonalization, I don't really have the exact definition, but I'll just tell you what I experienced. Depersonalization is a symptom of anxiety. It happens when you're extremely, extremely anxious. A lot of us go through it. I think all of us have gone through it at one time or another in a very scary situation. We just didn't realize that it was depersonalization. So if you've gotten into a car accident, and those first few minutes when you're like trying to figure out where you're at and things don't feel real, and you're trying to like, grab your bearings, sometimes that's depersonalization. Man was created during a time when you had to, like cavemen had to fight animals, fight lions, fight bears, or what have you. And the brain was created to be able to flip this switch to be able to protect you. So when your adrenaline is going, then your whole body gets numb, and then you're not feeling the fear anymore, and you're just in a survival mode. And that's where my body was going. I was having panic attacks, constant panic attacks, and then it slipped into this depersonalization depersonalization, which gave me the feeling like I was in a dream, or like it's something I was constantly fearing, like I was imminent threat was always around me. I was always scared of everything, scared to walk out my room, scared to look up at the sky, scared to be in the dark, like anything. I was scared, and my heart was always racing, and I was just like calling my mom, like, yo, I feel like I'm in a dream, like things feel weird. And I was just like, I don't know what's really going on, and it sounds crazy, but like my brain don't feel like it's working, you know. So I was going to the emergency room constantly, like I racked up emergency room bills, like didn't even care. They were like, oh, you know, you don't really need a CAT scan. Sis, give me the CAT scan, because I need to know what is going on with my brain. Like, no, this doesn't feel right. And she was like, I really think this is anxiety. So they had me go to the psych ward, and I was having a psych eval, and I was talking to one of the psychiatrists, and she was like, this really does sound like anxiety. And I'm like, there's no way. I've never knew anxiety to make me feel like this physically, like I was literally outside of my body. So it was like I was on autopilot, but I can see everything happening, but it was almost like I was watching it from the outside in. So it was like I kind of detached from my body, spiritually, or my soul, I don't know, but that's how it felt. So comes to find out that this is all anxiety is when I was like, okay, so how do I get back to feeling normal again? And that's when I discovered a lot of books and researching on how to minimize anxiety. So I'm like, okay, bingo. So what I need to do is I have to find a way to minimize the anxiety. I have to find a way to make this anxiety stop. What's that going to do? What does that mean? Like, do I change my diet? Do I go start working out? Do I, start reading books? And I found this guy named Sean O'Connor, and he came on my show actually to tell me about his experience with depersonalization. Pretty similar story. Him and I were ha kikiing, because I would, even throughout the times when I was having those, I was laughing about stuff then. But in the dark, it's like, really though, what's going on? What I'm saying? I'm like trying to keep the straight face, but him and I joked about it, and it was his book that really, really helped me like come to terms with everything and like get a grip and come out of it quickly. And so I took some of his ideas, and I took some of the things that I was learning and teaching myself on how to distract my mind. And that's why I know that anxiety is fake as fuck, and it does not exist unless we allow it to exist, because it's all about thoughts. It's all about thought patterns and thought process. And you have to reprogram your mind, and reprogram your subconscious mind. So once I, started to learn that is in learning how to distract my mind, because the brain does exactly what you tell us to do. So if I'm telling myself that I'm happy and I'm distracted, I'm over here and I'm doing this, it has no time it can't be at two places at one time. It's not omnipresent. So it can only be in one place. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to just focus on, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to focus on running on this treadmill. I'm running on this treadmill. I'm running on this treadmill. I'm so happy to run on this treadmill, and stay focused on that, and maybe watch a television show while I'm running on the treadmill. So it keeps my mind in that place, so that it's not thinking about the negative thoughts. So, the more you do that, it becomes habit forming. So that's what I did.
So it sounds like it was like mindfulness, because, right? So when you're practicing mindfulness, you are in the moment and only in that moment. You're focused on whether you are eating, whether you are meditating, whether you are running on this treadmill or otherwise, you were practicing a lot of mindfulness. Okay, so one of the things you talked about, like having gone to the psych ward or whatever, and they're like, sis, I think that this is anxiety. Was that the first time that you had even been diagnosed with like an anxiety disorder?
Yeah, that was the first time I ever went to the doctor about that. Like I can remember times where I was having anxiety attacks in college, but I didn't know what the hell it was. So I remember even having a depersonalized moment one time walking through the dorms, and it made me think about, like, I had an existential thought, like, what is this? What is Earth? Who am I? What is this body I'm living in? What happens after death? Like, I had those thoughts, and it kind of took me someplace, but I went right. Like, I immediately went back. We all have these thoughts and these rationales about our existential lives. You know what I mean? So It's just that I wasn't really focused on it, because when it happens, you go to do something else immediately. And depersonalization, though, it happens, but it won't stop. It becomes chronic, so I was chronically obsessing about my existence and my mortality, chronically. So it was just driving me crazy.
And so how long were you in like that chronic phase then?
So it started in March.
And this is of 2018?
2018, March 1st, 2018. And I would say that I didn't start feeling fully. Well, let me take a step back. I started to feel good. Let's say Essence Fest was in July.
Mm-hmm.
I was coming to terms with everything around June. And then we went to Essence Fest, went with a group of my close friends from my old neighborhood. And coming home, one of the young women that I was very close with died as soon as we got back home. So that caused me to kind of relapse. But I had the tools and I knew what I needed to do. But I remember going back into that dreamy feeling, like I was, like it heightened everything again. But I knew at that point in time, like, what to do. So technically, it took me maybe until like my birthday of 2018 is when I went on a solo trip by myself to celebrate my birthday in Jamaica. And that's when it really started to resonate with me that, oh, you're healing. Oh, you're feeling better. You're feeling normal. You're not constantly thinking about feeling like you're in a dream. So I had to figure out how to constantly not think about if I'm feeling like, does this feel like I'm in a dream? Do I feel normal? Like, because you're constantly checking in. Am I anxious? Am I like, is this real? So I had to stop doing all that checking in to see if it was still there, to see if I still felt that way. And in November of 2018 was when I started to be very distracted and realize. And then sometimes it would be like, oh shit, you wasn't thinking about it, girl. Like that's what happens. Like, and then you think about it. But it's like, oh wow, all this time I was doing this, but I never had an anxious thought. I never thought about my existence or death or anything in that moment. So yeah, I would say, like June, but then the setback, and then November was when I really started to feel it.
Wow. I can't even imagine what it may be like to have you had a whole trip with your girlfriend and then y'all came back and she passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, while it might have been a trigger, it sounds like that was traumatic though.
Oh, absolutely. Because depersonalization is based off of trauma. Mm-hmm. So, your body disassociates from the trauma. So if, just like I was saying with the caveman, with a bear coming to attack him, you disassociate because now you're in survival mode. You're not thinking with the adrenaline is rushing so much that you become completely numb to the situation. So that's what depersonalization is. And and then the trauma happens and the heart racing and the panic attacks, it just takes you out of body experience. Yeah.
So, you said that you had in college, you remember having like some anxiety attacks. Mm-hmm. About how you have like chronic panic attacks that ultimately led to this depersonalization. Mm-hmm. Would you say that there's like a definitive difference between having an anxiety attack versus having a panic attack?
Definitely.
Talk to me a little bit about that.
So the anxiety attacks last longer. They can be subtle. So you can have an anxiety attack from one day to a year. You could be in an anxiety disorder versus a panic attack that is usually 5 minutes, the most. Heightened panic, racing heart, sweaty hands, detaching from your body, but it comes down. It starts to come down right away, and your heart's not racing all the time. Whereas anxiety is a subtle, constant fear, a constant pressure, constant emotions rising, constant thoughts, intrusive thoughts. So that's the difference between that and the panic attacks.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've experienced a panic attack probably 2 or 3 times in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and one of which was this year, particularly at the height. Actually, it was 2 of them at the height of like COVID, and one of them I was driving downtown. But I think that for me, like my panic attacks, like the height of it, it can last, anywhere from, a couple of minutes, but it could also like take sometimes an hour, 2 hours to fully like come down from it for me. Like
Or
it
the
felt,
panic attacks.
yeah, it'd be like, it will, at the height of it, it's like, oh my gosh, like it's like
Yes.
this, and then it like, ultimately it comes down, but then there's still like this, like, I don't know, it kind of like this rigidity of my body that just won't allow me to like fully kind of like relax, if you will,
Right.
for an extended period of time.
Well, that kind of sounds like anxiety because, anxiety is gradual and kind of sneaks up on you out of nowhere. And that's one of the examples I had gave on my podcast, was saying like anxiety is like a snake in the grass, that it just be slithering and moving real slow, real gradually through your life. And you have no idea that it's happening, where the panic attack just comes on abruptly. You just like to pop out of bed and your heart is racing, racing, racing. The after effects of the panic attack could be anxiety from worrying about if you're going to have that panic attack again, or having those intrusive thoughts about what the hell was that. Or so it could be you develop an anxiety disorder, or develop anxiety from having those abrupt panic attacks. That could be it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that in describing like a panic attack versus an anxiety attack, for you, what does anxiety on a regular basis kind of look like for you?
Just a very constant uneasiness. You ever get scared? Ever watch something or on TV or something and get scared, or somebody comes in the room and scares you, and that feeling that you get in your stomach, or that feeling that you used to get when you was a kid and you knew you was about to get in trouble because the teacher was calling your house,
Yeah.
So that gut feeling, having that constantly, or having it sporadically throughout the day for no reason, or constantly thinking about, gosh, I'm so sad. I'm super sad. Like, I don't know why I'm sad. And that's causing a lot of anxiety and a lot of anxious thoughts and feelings around that. And it just is an ongoing thing for me. So I kind of like can sit in it. I could sit in anxiety all day if I wanted to, but I can't. It's just too painful. It's too painful emotionally for me to sit in it. So, but that's what anxiety during the day looks like for me. Like just constant thoughts. It's constant negative thinking and negative speaking. So that's the disorder part about it, is the negative thoughts and the negative talk that I say to myself that causes all of these unwanted emotions.
Gotcha. So that's how it manifests in like your feelings and your body and your mind.
Mm-hmm.
But what about like, what would you say are some of the outputs of that? So like for me, anxiety could look like procrastination to the degree. Like I would say organized chaos. Being late used to be like a really big issue for me. But those are kind of some of the ways in which it like just kind of manifests in my day to day.
Yeah. For me, I know when it's getting really bad when my house looks like Sanford and Son. Like when my house starts to look like Sanford and Son, I'd be like, oh yeah, you gotta call a cleaning lady, because I know physically I can't get up and clean my house. Like when I'm in a really highly anxious, highly emotional or unemotional state, I can't move. I get stuck. Like it literally paralyzes me. So I could be in the bed, and I can't even watch TV. Like I can't even binge things and focus on it. I'll find myself constantly looking for something to watch, and then start watching it and gotta stop it and find something else to watch. Like I can't, I'm indecisive, can't make a decision on things. And once I made a decision to watch it, then I'm like, like it becomes like an ADHD thing kind of, and I don't want to watch that. I want to watch something else. So when I can tell when that's happening and I'm stuck, I'm going from bed to couch, couch to bed, and the garbage is piling up. The dishes are piling up. The clothes are becoming, things are being at the front door that have no business being at the front door. Like, it's out of control. So, and I mean, that's normally how it'll show up in my presence, my physical presence space. And then in my body is how I said before, it's with the gnawing feeling in my stomach and the constant thoughts.
And the constant thoughts, does it ever mess up with your sleep?
No.
Yeah, girl, that's a blessing.
Yeah, I mean, I've had times where I was up and couldn't get to sleep, but I'm not one that has had an issue with sleeping. Even during the depersonalization, like there was time I would be scared to fall asleep, but my ass was going to fall. My ass eventually fell asleep. You know what I mean? Like, I just I found things to listen to. Like, I found YouTube videos to listen to, or scriptures. During the time that I was suffering with the DP, I was listening to scriptures nonstop, and just playing them over and over to get that in my subconscious mind. And then the guy Sean O'Connor had it was called a DP, a depersonalization pep talk, and it was all these calming things to tell you, you are okay, we are okay. This is only DP. It's not harmful at all to your brain. Your brain is fine. Your brain is healing. This is just a symptom of anxiety. You're going to be completely fine. So that was kind of like his pep talk. So I would listen to that on repeat until I fell asleep. So I never really had issues falling asleep. It'd just be like during the day,
when you're trying to function.
When I'm trying to function, I can't function.
Yeah.
I can't function. Like, I lost my job when I was suffering with depersonalization. I was in like the meetings with like looking like a deer with a head with that was in front of headlights, and I was like the only Black girl there because I had just left BET, so that was a culture shock for me. So I'm working with all these white people that I was just like, oh my God, and they was very condescending and passive aggressive, and all the microaggressions were happening. And then on top of that, they like, you know, I couldn't even explain to them what was really happening to me. So like, I just went downhill at the job. I couldn't think, I couldn't focus. I would just sit and stare at my computer, like just act like I was typing. And I couldn't focus.
You just couldn't
I couldn't do nothing. I could not do nothing.
So that seems like, you know, like the losing, you know, your job, like how did that make you feel, particularly after it was all said and done, and kind of like, how did you bounce back from that?
Well, it wasn't the first time I've lost my job. So it wasn't the first time I was in a place of struggle, survival. I had been homeless twice before. So kind of was just like, oh, here we go again, you know? And I think at that time I was just like, you know what? I have money saved up because I was making good money. So I had saved money up. So I was just like, oh, they're going to let me go. Fine, whatever. I don't care. I needed a break. And I remember looking forward to the last day there. And I was like, for 2 weeks, I'm just going to sleep. Like, I'm not getting out my bed. I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to sleep and I'm going to chill in my house. I'm going to relax. I'm not going to think about anything. I'm not going to think about getting a job. I'm not going to think about shit. And I refused to let it get to me. Then I finally started to get calculating on my LinkedIn and everything and working on my goals for Analog Girl. Cause I was like, well, I'm gonna just put my all in the Analog Girl. And I did that. And even while I was doing that, in my little bit of money that I was making, I continued to tithe and I just continued to work on Analog Girl. And then I just started to get all these offers in my LinkedIn. I never applied for not one job that I've gotten after getting fired.
Yes.
I was always approached by someone. Even the job I have now, I ditched the interview in the beginning of 2019 because I was making good money at Spotify. I was like, yo, I'm making mad good money. Like, I'm not trying to, I'm gonna just continue to freelance. I'm not even gonna worry about it because the freelance money is crazy right now in project management. So I ditched them, didn't call them back, the multicultural agency that I'm working at now. And then around my birthday, the recruiter called me again, like, you know, the person that they hired didn't work out and I really would still love for you to come in and meet them. So I came in and I was like, all right, I'll go meet them. I was still at Spotify. And they were like, well, we negotiated on salary and everything. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this is a go because, I don't have no benefits now at the time. I didn't have benefits at the time. So I was like, whatever, let me, maybe this is a go. And then, I went away for vacation for my birthday last year, November, to Colombia. And then they were like, they want to bring you on. And I took the job. And then 2020 happens, girl, and COVID.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, what would I have done if I was still a freelancer during COVID? I'd have been fucked.
Wow. Ain't it amazing how God will work things out on your behalf?
Yeah. So, I mean, all of that to say that, I knew that I was, when they let me go, it didn't traumatize me at that point because I knew I had to get my mind to a place like where I just knew I had to reprogram my mind, and being around them and the white folks and the microaggressions wasn't going to help.
Right.
That wasn't going to help.
So, sometimes you really got to pull yourself out of that space.
Yeah. So I looked at it as an opportunity for me to find a Black company to work for, find Black people to work around and feel comfortable. Even if they get on my nerves, at least it's my people.
Right,
you know what I mean? So I just didn't look at it as a bad thing. It definitely was traumatic, and I had to deal with that and process the fact of always being fired, never being picked, not feeling good enough, feeling dumb, feeling stupid. I still process that to this day, but overall, I think that I was able to look at it as better opportunities out there for me.
That was real powerful. So one of the threads like woven into this conversation has been like your faith and your spirituality. Mm-hmm. What role has that really played in your journey to wellness?
Everything. Everything. Psalms 116 is what got me through everything. Just reading that was like, okay, if I ain't gonna believe in nothing else, I'm gonna just believe that God is listening to what I'm saying, and He's answering my prayers. He's heard every word I've said. He's wiped every tear. I'm just choosing to believe that. And I would just read that and say, and just be like, I just know you've answered. I know you heard me. I know you heard me. You're telling me you heard me. So, and I'm a preacher's kid. My mom and my father are both preachers, and grew up, born and raised in the church. Parents met in the church. All night prayer.
Oh yeah.
2 and 3 services on a Sunday, service on a Tuesday, service on a Wednesday, service on a Friday. So that's all I know. So the thought never occurs to me to turn my back on God or turn my back on Jesus. And I've just always, I've been there. I've been spiritual. There are times that I'm very angry with God. I don't understand why things happen. I don't understand what this path is that He has me on. But the thought never occurs to me to say, I don't believe in God. Like, I'm not doing this. Screw this. Never does it cross my mind to do that. And one of the reasons why I think I'm at where I'm at financially and with work is because I decided that no matter what, even no matter how much money I'm getting, I'm tithing. Because I struggled with anxiety, believing, is God real? Is Jesus real? Does this count? Is this true? Are the words that I'm reading the Bible true? And that's the one time that the Bible says to test God and see if this is all true, is in Malachi, I think like 3:10, when it was saying, if this is the one thing I'm telling you to test me in, and that is tithing. And so I didn't start out with it like, I'm going to do this because I want to see what's going to happen. Like, I just felt like if I want things to change, I need to be able to start letting go of stuff. And I felt like I was always hoarding and holding on to money for fear of being homeless, for fear of losing my job, just always hoarding, and things that we grow up learning, like my parents hoarding money, my parents fighting over money, my father being absolutely ridiculous when it came to money. You know what I mean? So all of that was ingrained in me. And so I had to and even still, girl, because I've saved money over the pandemic, and it's like I don't even want to I don't want to go touch that money, because I'm like,
don't touch it.
I'm not, but I can. You know what I mean? Like there's money, like I put it aside for Christmas. Now I'm like, I could take a few dollars out to spend on Christmas gifts, but it's like giving me anxiety to do it.
No, you know what's giving me anxiety about Christmas time?
What?
Girl, online shopping.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I can't tell you how many carts I've abandoned.
No, I do that all the time.
Oh, my gosh. It's so overwhelming.
But, I done got addicted to Afterpay, so that makes it easier for me. So I think I got like 13 items on Afterpay. No, but I have the money. I have the money to pay it outright, but it's something about the Afterpay makes me feel a little better that it's not all coming out at one shot. Time. Yeah. So, that's really what bothers me. But I truly believe that is one of the reasons why I'm at where I'm at and not struggling, got a house over my head, a roof over my head, because I continue to give. I want to be able to get in a place where I'm giving more and I want to be happy about it, not anxious. I haven't gotten to a complete place of feeling like not anxious at all about giving away my money. Because the truth of the matter is, the more you give, the more you will get back. That's just bottom line. I've seen it happen for others. I've seen it happen for me. And even if it's not a monetary gift that comes back, it's something else.
Yeah. It's blessings on blessings.
It's something else. It's something else. So, and even in my whole believing in believing that I will find true love, I still believe like, well, God, you gotta be bringing me somebody. Like,
girl, you need to come out to Chicago.
This all can't be for naught. Maybe I should come out to Chicago.
Girl, come out to Chicago. That's where I found mine.
Really?
Listen, yeah, dating in New York, it was a whole lot of fun, honey. I ain't about to lie, girl.
That's one of my biggest fears right now. So
yeah, you gotta work through that fear, because you are worthy, queen. You are too fabulous.
Well, I know I am. It's just that is it happening?
Yes. Have you ever done a vision board?
All the time. I got a vision board right here on my laptop that I look at every day. And it's so cute. Let me tell you, it has Issa Rae and what's his name from the photograph when they was like looking at each other, like rubbing their nose. There's a couple, actually, she's bald too, like me, because sometimes things are better with no hair. And is a guy, and he's like not passionately, but he's just like lovingly embracing her bald head. And then there's a woman who looks like they're just got married, and her husband is like passionately looking at her. So I look at that often. It's right on, and I see, I keep it on my desktop. So while I'm working, I can see it subconsciously. It's just, building there, because my home is on there, my car is on there, my travel, my finances on there. So yeah.
Okay. Yes. To manifest you desire.
Yes.
So yes. So real quick, I'm curious to know, like, what are the tools and like the resources that you keep in your wellness, your Woosah toolkit, that you found real helpful to you in managing like your anxiety, or just balancing out your wellness in general?
When I know that when things get really, really bad for me, and I'm like, whoa, I need to take a step back, get back. One is I juice fast. That always gets me, like, do a 3 or 5 day juice fast. Always gets me a little clarity. And I use raw generation juices, and they're amazing. They don't taste nasty at all. But that's one of the things that I do, which I'm actually getting ready to order tonight, because I feel like I want to do something after Christmas, like fast into the new year. And I do Transcendental Meditation too, which has been very great.
You do what?
Transcendental Meditation, and they call it TM. And I think it's the most easiest meditation for anybody who struggles with anxiety. It's effortless. It ain't about emptying your mind and trying to get empty thoughts or no thoughts. Because I think a lot of us think that meditation is supposed to be like, clear your mind and have no thoughts. And it's like, no one can ever have no thoughts.
Right.
That's not how it works. And so TM embraces the thoughts, embraces any intrusive thoughts. And they're just like, let them come, let them go. Don't resist. That's where I learned a lot about taking the path of least resistance. Is no resistance in it. You just sit with your eyes closed and you say your mantra that you were given. And you say that and you keep constantly saying that, and the thoughts come and they go. The negative, there's positive thoughts. They just all come and go. But the point of it is that you're still remaining calm in that situation and you're not letting these thoughts panic you or scare you. And I've found that you do that twice a day. And I know that whenever it's getting really bad for me, I'll get back into it, because I'm supposed to be doing it all the time, but sometimes I fall off on it. And when I realize that, oh, I'm a little off, I get back on to doing the Transcendental Meditation. But there's a lot of tools. Like I can go on and on about different things that I do. Right now I'm reading the book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And so that's really been helping me. The morning pages has really been like meditation for me, although the morning pages for me is very negative. And for anybody listening, what morning pages is that she tells you to get up every morning and write 3 pages in a notebook every day of every thought that comes to mind as soon as you wake up. So what I was noticing for the past week as I was writing, everything was angry, sad, like wicked stuff that I was saying and feeling about myself and about my life and where I'm at in my life. And then I had to talk to my therapist today, like, I need to talk about this exercise that I'm doing, because I need to process that I didn't realize how angry and dissatisfied I am with where I'm at right now, or with things that have gone on in my life. And so but that's the whole point of that book, is to get to that and to process all of that, to bring out the creativity again. So I'm always looking, for a book or something that's going to open me up and help me. And linking creativity to anxiety has just been, because that just makes sense to me. That's why it's when I'm anxious, I can't be creative.
It's so hard to be creative.
I can't be creative. And I find that most creative people are anxious people, and that we just do better when we get into a place of acceptance and letting go. So, reading that book right now is what's helping me right now too.
That's awesome. It's funny that you mentioned that. Yesterday, I went to Barnes and Noble.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been in the bookstore probably in like a year, thanks to COVID. And it was refreshing to kind of like, be in the bookstore, hold the books, know the books, right?
Yeah.
And I saw The Artist's Way and I was like, dang, I think I literally have that book like in a box somewhere. It's not on my shelf. And so I've had that book for like years, but I actually, how they have certain books on display, and I was one of them, and I was like, oh, I got to pull that out. So
no, that's a great book for anyone who struggles with anxiety. And as a creative, I think that book is amazing.
Yeah.
And I've not even gotten all the way through. I've only just started. And I think that, and every time I say that I'm reading it, people even come in the comments like, that book is amazing. I had so many people hop in my DMs like, amazing book. Like, it's helped them so much. So I definitely, what's the word? Yes, recommend. I couldn't even think of that. I definitely could recommend that. So, so that's pretty much what I've been doing. And of course, therapy. You cannot miss out on therapy. Therapy will help you. It might not seem like it in the beginning, but in the long run, I think therapy really has helped me in building this relationship with my therapist. And I've been going to her since 2018. And today she even said, like, I see tremendous growth in you. We do have things and ways to go on my subconscious and my reprogramming my mind. But she was like, but overall, she was telling me like, girl, you were able to come out of depersonalization and heal naturally. No medication, nothing. And I was like, I never really stepped back from it and just, saw it for that. I'm just so busy trying to look forward to like, oh, well, I need everything to be like this, but not really just accepting and being like, oh, okay, yeah, like I can do this and I can do more, So, my journey is just to reprogram my mind. One thing my therapist was telling me too, that was like motivated me today to reprogram my mind was that negative thoughts actually shrink our brains. And so the more that we have negative thoughts, negative emotions, and the more we think on it, it's scientifically proven that the brain shrinks.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, okay. So now I know what I don't want. So
what's real interesting about that, brain shrinkage is usually indication of like early like onset dementia and like Alzheimer's. Which is like, that could be like a whole nother conversation, but that's
right.
Like, and I know this to be true because my mom is currently going to see a neurologist for, memory loss and stuff. And so that's what,
Yeah. And she said that's where memory loss comes from, is the brain shrinkage of like, if you're having anxiety and you're always having these thoughts. And she said, yeah, scientifically your brain is shrinking. So then you're having memory loss and sometimes speech issues. And yeah.
Girl, that is fascinating.
Isn't
and
it?
That's some stuff that I like. I will geek out on. Like,
yeah. I'm like, oh, I'm going to research this because, oh no. No, we're not gonna continue to shrink my brain. So yeah. It was motivating. Yeah, it's very interesting. It was very interesting when she told me today.
Wow. Yeah. I definitely believe in therapy. I feel like it changes lives. It has changed mine.
It does. So I definitely recommend that.
For anyone who might be listening to this episode right now and might be suffering, whether it's depersonalization, whether it is, anxiety, generalized anxiety, if it is pandemic-based anxiety, what's one thing you want them to know?
I would say that every thought that you have that's an anxious thought, the one thing that you must remember, and that will help you throughout every panic attack, every anxiety attack, is that these things are just not true. Anxiety is just a bunch of lies that we keep telling ourselves over and over again that cause us to panic. And then when you come down to it and you really rationalize what the thought is, the thought could be, I'm going to walk across the street and the bus is going to hit me. Oh my God, I can't walk across the street because the bus is going to hit me. And then you look and you say, but there ain't no buses coming. You know what I'm saying? So so I can walk across the street. There's no buses coming. There's not even any cars in sight. So I can walk across the street. So, it's like your brain is just constantly making things up for you and lying to you. And it's negative stuff. And if you are a believer of a creator or a higher being, I say that if you put trust in a higher being, then imagine, the way I can reframe it is, imagine how much trust we put in anxiety. We put so much trust in anxiety. Imagine what life would be like if we put all of that trust in a higher being who's actually telling us the truth. So that's what I would say. Imagine how much trust you're putting in anxiety, and if you can just shift that to putting that trust in the creator, God, whomever, I think that is the beginning of a great road to healness and recovery.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, listen, I think that I have one last question for you. I know you'd be like, Faith, you didn't ask me a lot of questions today. But I got one last question for you.
Okay.
So even in the midst of it all, of COVID, of anxiety, all these different things, what's bringing you joy right now?
That's a tough one because I'm not really joyful. I think what's bringing me joy now is the idea that I'm gonna be okay. Optimism is bringing me joy, that I'm starting to feel a little optimism, and that I'm seeing growth in my decision making and my emotions, and not being irrational about my actions. Not letting the little girl inside of me make me do and say things that I should not be saying out of emotional immaturity. So that brings me joy, that I'm still on the right path to this wholeness that I've been seeking for quite some time. So, if that makes any sense, because I don't really have one particular thing that's bringing me joy right now, but I do know that I'm very optimistic and happy and proud of myself that I can still look forward to a journey of wholeness and healing.
That's good. That's real good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, Queen, I can't thank you enough for coming on and chatting with your girl. I appreciate it. And I appreciate your rawness, your realness, and just the beauty that comes out when you are sharing your story. So with that being said, how can, those who want to, follow along and listen to your podcast, or who want to follow you on social media when you do your little TikTok things, I gotta get TikTok.
I'm not on TikTok.
Is it?
I do the reels. I do the reels.
Okay.
I do the reels. I'm learning now as I go. I'm just having fun with those reels now, just doing makeup because my friend taught me how to do makeup. So I'm just on there doing cute stuff. But you can find me on the analog girl on Instagram, _analog girl on Twitter, on Clubhouse. You can find me on the LaToya Newton or the Analog Girl. And my website is theanaloggirl.com.
Thank you so much for listening. It is truly my hope that you both enjoyed and gained something from it. And if so, be sure to share this episode with another queen that could benefit. Also, if you are willing and able, please leave me a 5-star review wherever you consume your podcast. That is how we spread the good word, y'all. And in the meantime, be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at The Sister Circle Podcast. And be sure to check out the website, thesistercirclepodcast.com. There you can subscribe to our mailing list to ensure you get reminders about when new episodes drop, and receive our monthly newsletter that's filled with great resources. You can check out our show notes, resources, and blog. And you can send me a message if you want to be on the show, have an idea for the show, would like to collaborate, or sponsor the show. With love, Faith.